You're listening to 88.3 WFC Finley, North Baltimore. I'm your host, Richard Mass, and this is Richard Mass Movie Minute. I'm joined here again by Matt Lane. Say hello.
Thank you for having me, good sir. I've really enjoyed it.
We are going to be going into our life through film segment now, our normal good old time here. I've got 10 questions set up for Matt. I've sent him over, and he's prepared some movies to go along with these. Before we get into that, do you want to talk about maybe your relationship with movies? Because it's maybe different than a lot of the people I've had on before.
Yeah, I would imagine that it is. It's I was I have a maybe a little bit more of a unique perspective than some. My parents in their 70s, I'm 35. So my mom had me when she was 40. Like I grew up, they don't like they were not into fantasy or anything like that. And they really weren't into cinema, pop culture. So I had this like hermit upbringing when it comes to pop culture and cinema. So that ignorance really has been able, like, I've ultimately found movies only 5 years ago. Like, I've obviously watched movies all my life, but I watched a lot of the same movies over and over. It's not like I was going to the cinema and like something else came out and I'm going to go watch it. So, with all that said, I have a weird relationship, I think, with movies. Like a good friend of mine, Holden, and some friends that I have, they were seeing the new Marvel movie when it came out every single time. They were going to see the new Star Wars every single time. I didn't have that at all.
Mm.
So I think that is a beautiful ignorance that I have because I'm just blasted with information. There's so many movies that I've yet to see that I need to see. So movies I used to think were just a waste of time. And then I realized how much value they have in teaching and making you laugh, at levity, at gravity, at
Mm.
learning about death. So like so much, so much.
Yeah. What has it been like to do these videos with Holden and even like having people come along like Jeremy
Yeah.
and everything, like having those extra people come in? What has it been like with that?
I'll tell you what's been so interesting. The whole reason that we did this was like my curiosity to see what my friend likes. And the whole point is, what does he like? Let me learn about it. So
Yeah.
again, what I said earlier is like forever a student. That's why I agreed to it. I thought it was stupid to start. I was like, this is dumb, but I'm still going to learn something.
Hmm.
But just learning how much they loved it, learning how much they loved it and then why they loved it,
Hmm.
that's what really, I think, made me come back. So even if they loved something and I was like, that is horrible, but I'm interested to hear why, when they would tell me, I grew up watching this, like what you told me,
Yeah.
like, my grandparents watched this 14 times, like that automatically makes me care just a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I guess hearing the stories behind it, knowing why they love what they love, that's what gave me the interest. And then now that's what makes me view movies as an incredible art
Hmm.
to, change. I think it can ultimately change a lot of things. We learn a lot from cinema.
Yeah. How much have these videos like changed your life or impacted you?
Oh my gosh. I don't think that it's even measurable.
Mm.
I think sort of like that ripple effect, like because this happens type of concept.
Yeah.
But so much to where he and I actually took a break of
Yeah.
doing My Friend Watches. And during that time, I actually watched a lot of movies. Like I
Mm.
watched a lot of movies that I never would have watched, never would have tried. And so I think it opened up my mind. It definitely, ultimately led to me doing a documentary because
Yeah.
I would never have given the time to do such a long. I was like, why would I don't need 90 minutes. What is that? So it's changed a lot for sure.
Yeah. What made you decide to come back after that break? Was it because you finished the documentary, or was it just because you finally felt like in a place better than before?
A place better before, and I left My Friend Watches because I wanted to focus on my business
Hmm.
and really work on that. I guess his YouTube channel is his thing and my business is my thing.
Yeah.
And I noticed that we did so much My Friend Watches that it was difficult to do my business at all. So I finally have gotten it to a point where I was like, all right, there's a lot of things I've accomplished and done with my business that I wanted to do that now I can afford a little bit more time to do that with him.
Sure, definitely, definitely. Was there ever a moment where you were like, I mean, you mentioned you watched movies when you were away, that you were like, I wish these videos were more like maybe less video and more just watch party. Like, let's not just do a video and let's just have a watch party with my friends.
That's interesting you say that. There's definitely been some things that there's actually one right now
Mhm.
that is Matt Parker and Trey Stone. Trey Stone. Yeah, so the inventors of South Park,
Mhm.
they have this documentary where it's called Casa Bonita
Is
Mia
that that one
Warm.
where they take the restaurant?
That's exactly it.
Oh,
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah. And so a piece of me is like, this would be really interesting when my friend watches. Nobody's going to watch that. But I like in my head, I'm like, it would be so cool to watch this with Holden and Jeremy and whatnot, just to see their perception of it.
Mhm.
So yeah, ultimately, there's so many things that I would love to just be a watch party. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what's it been like to also kind of go away because you guys kind of stuck to specifically like superheroes and like Star Wars at
Yeah.
first, and now you've been going to do like stuff like the comedy, like speaking of the South Park creators, you just did Team
Yeah.
America, which was
Exactly.
hilarious. But
Yeah.
what has it been
Yeah.
like to kind of just do films other than sci-fi fantasy action?
I've enjoyed that. Like,
Yeah,
so growing up, I did like comedies growing up. And getting to a point where it's just like, what do we enjoy doing? We recently did like one of the first horror movies ever called Sinister, which
yeah,
was I learned so much about myself about watching that. So going off of more of the beaten path, because doing Marvel and superheroes and all that, like those do fairly well when it comes to YouTube.
yeah,
That does play a little bit of a role of the decisions that we make, but not always. And so doing some of these off the beaten path, or I guess not going to do as well on YouTube. Like it's been fun because I get to learn things such as Sinister. Like it made me
yeah,
cry just because of
yeah.
the dread from that movie. So I think there's ultimately just more experiences that I can have especially when you go different genres and like, oh, there's this different director. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I actually loved watching that Sinister video. As
Yeah,
crazy
that
that
was
may
rough.
sound, because I'm a big horror fan. My
Are you
grew up,
really?
yeah, my mom loves horror, so I grew up watching horror movies from a very young age, which to you may sound crazy. Uh, and then my girlfriend, she's also a huge horror fan. She actually has a whole
Okay.
tattooed sleeve of horror characters that her uncle
Wow. Okay.
does for her. And so like
Rad.
seeing your reaction to that, and it was what was interesting to me was you mentioned you cried while like when watching it, and
Yeah.
you were like, "Am I a pansy for that?" That's
Right.
probably
Yeah.
more of a normal reaction than how I react to it. Like genuinely, like I watch like that movie makes
That
me
makes
uncomfortable,
sense.
but to see your reaction like that added another level
That
and
makes
layer to
sense.
that movie for
Mm,
me because I really like that movie and just seeing
that
how
makes
much that
sense.
affected you.
That makes sense. It's really funny you say that. So somebody said in the comments, they were like, "It's interesting to see a 35-year-old male going through something that I like figured out and got over at like
Yeah,
7." And I thought about that. And I was like, "Oh wow, that makes a lot of sense." There may be just this concept that I'm just new to horror movies in general. I've seen horror movies, but it's like
sure.
I've seen Halloween, like
Yeah.
Michael Myers and stuff like that. So that's interesting to say that it added a layer for you to sort of witness that. And I think that's the same thing of that person that left that comment.
Yeah, yeah. It's just it's crazy because like I feel at a point I'm desensitized to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I also come into it, I think a lot like how Holden does is like I look at how they make it, like why they edited it this
That
certain
right.
way or how they
Yeah,
filmed it this way. And I think sometimes that does remove a bit of the horror for it
for
because
sure.
I'm trying to dissect it. So
Absolutely.
seeing it through your eyes is was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
And
That's
while
cool.
I don't maybe recommend you watch more horror movies, especially if that's how you react, uh,
We'll see. We'll see.
I think it'd be great to like see you watch some other ones.
Again, like after we were filming that, I said it on camera. I was like, I don't know if this is good to watch, and
Hmm.
I now am thinking, I'm like, there's lessons there. So
Yeah.
I think there is ultimately more upside than downside from it. So yeah, I'm not gonna write it off, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you're 100% right that that takes you out of it because I was fully immersed. I was
Hmm.
there, and that's what I complimenting that director. Like she, they delivered.
Yeah, yeah.
They
He's got
delivered it, and it did what it was supposed to.
yeah, Scott Derrickson, I think is his name.
Scott Garrettson. Okay, yeah,
Just
he crushed it.
absolutely fantastic. He actually
Wow.
you've actually seen another movie from him. I know for a fact because you watched Doctor Strange.
Okay. Wow. He did.
Yeah.
Wow. What a
Yeah. What what a
huh.
wild.
Y-
And he
wh-
he is just an expert at horror. He also did a movie called Black Phone 2 years ago, I think.
I think I heard about that, never saw it.
Yeah, it's also with oh my God, what's his name? Completely just blanked on me. The guy, the dad in the movie in Sinister. Um,
Oh, man.
um, oh
Ah,
my goodness. He stars in Black Phone
yeah.
as like a serial killer. Um,
Okay.
and it's really good. They're making a sequel to it, I think next year or this year.
Okay.
So he is just top-notch horror. So having that be
Wow.
like one of your first forays into horror maybe was a little intense too.
It was intense. Yeah.
Because that is definitely a darker horror film.
Yeah.
Because you could also have gone like horror comedy. I mean, I know you guys watched Evil Dead,
Yeah.
and you didn't particularly love those, but
Right.
but horror is just like a genre in itself that's so expansive.
You're 100% right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But
Hmm.
the videos are just always so much fun.
Well,
Watching the
good. I'm
Power
glad.
Ranger ones too. I love Power Rangers growing up. So seeing you watch
Okay.
those movies was great because I
Yeah,
I hadn't seen those in years. And so it was like also like making me remember a lot of the things that I was like,
that's
this
cool.
is great.
That's
Um,
cool.
so
Hmm.
it's the same way like Holden's bringing you to watch this first time. It's the same way I make like my friends watch something for the first time and see the
Exactly.
reaction. And so it's nice getting that double effect to
Yeah.
it.
That's what a lot of people have said throughout the years of doing this is like that's exactly how my friends and I reacted. That's how we would react. It feels like I'm hanging out with you guys, and
Yeah.
I think that's why it works. It's authentic. It's just two bros sitting down and watching a movie,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's fun. So I'm glad that translates because with he and I, like what you see is what you get. It's tough to tell with social
Yeah.
media nowadays. You can't tell if people are authentic, and that's just who we've been from the start, and that part hasn't changed. So, and we've always said the day that that changes is the day that we stop doing it,
Hmm.
and fortunately, that's stayed the same.
That's really good to hear because there's a lot of times you hear online. I don't know how like up with like YouTube like culture and stuff, but there's like people who have hated each other for years and they still make content and then
Oof.
they leave and then they start talking crap behind about each other
Yeesh.
and it's like wow, you could have
Yeah,
just got out why you still enjoyed
yeah,
each other's company,
yeah,
instead of hating each other. So
yeah,
that's honestly good to hear that like
yeah,
it is like a friendship both
for
off and
sure.
on screen and probably more off screen.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that comes first, your actual
Yeah,
friendship than the videos.
for
I think
sure.
that's
We've had to learn like the business side of things. Like I owned a business sort of sooner before he did, so there was a learning curve for both of us, and like it's not that we haven't ever had a crossed word or anything like that, but we've always leaned on like, is he doing something malicious? No,
mhm.
he's not doing. No, he's not doing something. I know he's not doing something malicious, so we can work through this. I love him to death. He loves me to death. So, um, yeah, putting that first is huge with any relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can start getting into our no normal set of
Okay,
questions here.
cool, cool.
What is your guilty pleasure film and why?
So strangely, I had to choose. Like, I actually had to look up the definition of guilty pleasure because I was like, I know what that means, but let me just get some context. And
Hmm.
so to clarify, guilty pleasure is what most people like or what most people don't like, but that I like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So is there a certain level of like embarrassment because you like it? You think that goes
Um,
along with it?
I think to us like it's almost like it's like when you see like big macho man, they're like, and they listen to like a Chapel Roan or something, or like a Sabrina Carpenter,
Got it.
and it's
Okay.
like it's like they're embarrassed about it because it doesn't fit their persona.
Got it. Okay.
And that sort of
That makes
idea
sense.
that people have of them. So
Okay.
in the same way of like with movies, it's like this is a movie that's terrible. Everybody knows it's terrible, but if I like it,
Got it.
does that make me look terrible?
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. And again, I thought I knew that, but I was like, let me just clarify. So the movie Basketball.
Okay.
So the writers of South Park,
Hmm.
they did that. So they actually acted in that movie. I did not know that they did not direct it, but they acted in it. And in interviews, they have now said they regret making it. That's how much they
Wow.
disliked it. And I just thought it was hilarious. I thought it was so funny. And so again, I guess I don't know what the general consensus is on that movie, but seeing
Mhm.
how the people, like the main two actors in it, hated it, I was like,
Yeah.
I think that probably counts. I thought it was a
Yeah.
great, I thought it was a great film.
No, absolutely. I think it's it's funny. I have been more introduced to like the South Park creators through my girlfriend and her sister.
Okay.
Because growing up, I think I've only ever seen one episode of South Park, and it's the
Yeah.
very first one with the
Oh wow.
alien abduction
Okay.
stuff. And so I'm just like, this is not my sort of thing. But but watching it, they love South Park
Okay.
and they watch it like religiously. So
Interesting.
seeing it through their eyes, it makes me appreciate it way more.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
getting to see your videos more recently with like the Team America and everything, like I've never
Yeah.
seen that movie, but like
Yeah.
it's seeing how much it makes you guys laugh, it makes
Yeah.
me appreciate it more.
Yeah.
So I find that super, super interesting.
Yeah. Same. Like like I've seen South Park and I've definitely laughed and whatnot, but I
Mhm.
can't say that I'm like just obsessed with South Park.
Sure.
So I think I've been interested in them and some of the things they've made, their trajectory. Like I've been very interested in their trajectory and how their career and all that. But yeah, basketball was really funny to me.
Yeah. Uh, Going off of this question too, is something I like to ask. Do you actually believe in the idea of guilty pleasure, or do you think that people should just enjoy what they enjoy? Like, should there be guilt with coming to it?
I think that that's why I had such a problem with like
Yeah.
that. That was it took me such a long time really chewing on that because I was like, why would it be guilty? Like why would it
Yeah.
be and I get what it means. Maybe I just assessed it a little bit too long, but to me it felt like there was like a little bit of embarrassment because I like this, most people don't. I'm not going along with the crowd type thing.
Hmm.
Um no, I think you should just like what you like because you like it or don't like it if you don't like it,
Yeah.
And I guess that's how I approach it. But
Yeah. I remember that kind of clicking into my head, like, because I also just don't think, like, if you like something, like it.
that's it.
Like,
Yeah.
like, if somebody judges you so heavily off of that, that's not somebody you want to be around, anyways.
Exactly. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Absolutely.
And I remember the movie for me that like clicked that like idea in mind was that Mortal Kombat movie from the 90s. I
Mm,
love that movie, but people hate it. People think it's
really
terrible. Oh yeah, people think it's just terrible. But there's
interesting.
something so cheesy and fun about it
Okay.
that like it reminds me of just like a classic action movie from like the 80s and everything. So
Okay.
I'm like
That's cool.
there's so much to this that I enjoy. So why would I
Gotcha.
feel guilty about this?
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. Yeah. It's almost like I think it goes back to like that perception thing. It's like you don't have my perception, so that's wrong. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, yeah,
No,
that makes
no.
sense.
You talked about how neither of your parents cared for cinema, weren't into like popular culture or anything. So
Mm-mm.
going to this next question, do you have films that you relate to your parents?
That's
Absolutely.
great question for the next
Great
one because
question.
absolutely. So the toughest, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to say this, the
Mhm.
toughest part about this segment is like with all these questions is there's so many answers
Right.
there. So I wanted to lean on at least the ones that I knew had true meaning behind them. Planes, trains, and automobiles, or
Hmm.
is it trains, planes, and automobiles? I always forget. Is it
I think it's
planes first or
Plane
trains?
Trains.
I think so too. Planes, trains, and automobiles. I can just picture my family and I watching that on Sunday afternoon, nowhere near Thanksgiving, because it was like a Thanksgiving travel film if you haven't seen it,
Mhm.
and just absolutely hilarious movie. It always takes me back to the house that I lived in. I can smell the smells. I had nostalgia. You show me
Mhm.
that today and not having grown up watching it, there's no way I would care as much as I do about that film. There's just no way.
Yeah. You mentioned Planes, Trains, Automobiles, and you also mentioned a lot about how you enjoy comedy.
Yeah.
What draws you to comedy more so than some of these other genres?
I think that there's levity in comedy that can ultimately be therapy.
Uh-huh.
Not to get too deep about it.
No, get deep.
Some days you just want to laugh, but there's people I've learned use movies or video games for escapism.
Mhm.
And I didn't understand that before. I was like, what a waste of time. You're sitting down doing nothing. No. But, you know, going through life and learning things and whatnot, sometimes you just need a little bit of levity.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just need to laugh. When we watch Team America, I that's probably the hardest I've ever laughed. I've never had a headache from laughing. And I think that's really impactful, but I was compl I wasn't thinking about anything else because I was laughing so hard. And what are the health implications of that? It can't be a bad thing, like
No.
there's gotta be good that comes from that. So comedy to me has just always been, it's just always felt like a good thing. I've
Yeah.
never watched a comedy and been like, this is a bad thing,
I mean,
So
yeah.
it just feels good. It just
Yeah.
feels good.
I mean, they say laughter is the best medicine, you
Absolutely.
know. But I think that's interesting because like I'll do that, but I'll go to like if I'm feeling like sad, I'll watch something that is like something equally sad, so I can kind
It's
of see how
Yep,
they react to it.
yep,
Um,
exactly. Yep.
and so yeah, no, absolutely, I think that's really interesting because I also just personally I've never been really drawn to comedies.
Really
Yeah, I find comedies just harder to watch. Like I become
interesting.
distracted more easily. And that's
Huh.
not to say that there aren't comedy movies that I love or
Sure.
anything,
Sure.
but it's harder for me to actually like sit down and care about it.
Interesting. I
Uh,
wonder I wonder if that is stylistically because there's slapstick comedy,
yeah.
there's satire. So it's interesting. It's interesting you say that.
Yeah, so again, it's just interesting to hear like how it draws you in
Yeah.
versus like versus me. So,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, and also feel free to get deep if you want to get deep.
Yeah.
Don't ever stop yourself. Don't ever
Okay, I
stop yourself.
appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what this show is about. It's about learning about you.
Okay, cool.
Going on to the next question here. We talked a lot in the last segment about your, support from your wife and everything. So what's
Yep.
a film that made you look at love differently?
So I thought about this answer quite a bit, and it still has merit, but it's not the classic love of what you would think. So
Yeah.
there's a movie called The Dallas Buyers Club.
Mm,
And my gosh. So Matthew McConaughey he basically played this part based on a true story of this guy that got HIV in the 70s, early 70s. And, we definitely didn't have any treatment for it and all that. He was this rough around the edges type guy. And I, what I got from this film was this character arc of this person that was rough around the edges, had these thoughts about the gay community, and if you have HIV, you're a bad person, and all that. So to see this character arc of him getting it, and then his perspective changes, and he he ultimately, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's just an incredible movie to see. Mm, don't spoil it. To see at the end how he does things not for himself anymore. It was just incredible to see such an arc that my perception was love for his fellow human.
hmm
It was just incredible. It doesn't hurt at all to know that, his physical transformation for the role, you could just see so much. There's one scene in that movie where he cries, and the dread that I feel from it. Now, when I watch, I have to fast forward through it, just the way he cries, there's so much dread in it. But ultimately, through all that pain that he experienced, you were able to see this guy that was totally different in the beginning become a better person and do really, really good things. I saw love from that. I really did.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I also think it's interesting, like getting to see a film and then having it completely change to what you thought of.
Yeah,
Maybe somebody you talk about the gay community, having it
sure.
change how you think of a community or something. I've always been fairly open, but like it still always surprised me how much more open I can become
Yeah,
to people and their experiences through film and everything,
yeah,
which is I think just one of its many benefits.
yeah. Well, and it was interesting because I didn't grow up in the 70s. I didn't know what it was like, but
Yeah.
the film shows you what it felt like to have HIV at that time. There was very little treatment. You were, like no one wanted to even touch you. And it's just like, what a predicament. Like how painful that must have felt been?
hmm And like, and what's more human than that?
Yeah. Oh my
Like
gosh. This
that.
feeling hopeless.
Oh yeah, and tr just consolidating that in someone, like finding that through a film or through a
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
that's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Incredible flick.
Go on to the next question. What's a film that makes you feel like a kid?
I watched this with my wife 3 weeks ago.
Oh
Toy
wow.
Toy Story. So
Oh okay.
I haven't seen Toy Story in quite some time, and I forget what prompted it to be. Oh, what am I thinking? We watched Team America, which was
Mhm.
if you haven't seen it, it's like puppets and
Yeah,
puppeteer.
yeah,
Anyway, And I don't know why it made me think of Toy Story. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I asked my wife, I was like, "Hey, you want to watch it? We should watch this." And again, I was just transported back to being a kid, and I honestly haven't watched Toy Story in a long time, but it felt like I was at home when the home I live in is not the home I grew up in. Like, it just
Mhm.
the screen totally transported me somewhere else. Totally, it just and I was watching some of it sitting down, and then I was like doing dishes and stuff, so I didn't even have to fully be there.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, I was like, how powerful is that? I was halfway watching it and was totally transported back to 1990s when I was a kid watching it.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the sequels?
I saw Toy Story 2, and that was it.
Okay. Hey, you should not to hype it up because I know we just had a conversation about hyping something up. You should watch three
Is it
if you
that
get.
good?
It's it's incredible.
Okay. Wow.
It's very good.
Okay.
Um, I'm a big proponent of like kids movies don't have to be
All
like
kid.
sort of all kid.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of times where like some of the movies that still stick with me today, like you watched The Iron Giant. The Iron Giant's a
Yes.
movie I saw as a kid, and that sticks with me still to this day. One of my favorite movies ever.
Huge. What a great
Huge.
movie.
And so like Toy Story 3, I would say in the same aspect of that is has such heavy themes to it, but is able to package that and deliver that to
Wow.
a child
Wow.
in
That's
such a
great.
meaningful way.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I learned about Iron Giant was just so
Yeah.
much meaning. There's so much like I could have talked about like it's interesting because after I watch certain movies, yeah, I learn things and we do it for the post discussion reaction and whatnot. But there days after, I'm still realizing things. And like, "Ugh, I wish I could have gotten this. We should shoot another segment real quick because there's just lessons that you can learn even years later from something if you really watched it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's a movie I recommend for you.
Heck
Toy
yeah.
Story 3.
Okay.
Um, but talking about sort of darker themes, what's the film that helped you through a dark time?
So this sounds like a corny answer, but it's so true. It's the movie The Pursuit of Happiness.
Mm,
Before I watched that movie, I didn't even understand the pursuit of happiness. And being in my 30s now, I started a business when I was 27, working on, financial freedom and I'm going to do what I love and all this. And ultimately, I think what a lot of us are after is to get out of pain or to be happy, to experience joy. And the pursuit of happiness is just such a it says so much that you are accountable for your own happiness. There there are things within our control and things that are not within our control. So you must control what you can. And that pursuit of happiness, I feel, for me, is my responsibility. So that movie just showed so much that not only is your happiness your own pursuit and your responsibility, but it also defines what really is happiness. This sort of goes back to like the fitness aspect of like, is that the body you really want? Is that the
yeah.
way you really want to live to get that body? Is that really what makes you happy? So that film did so much for me in times where I was questioning like, yeah, big have a big business and be a CEO and have a lot of money. Like, is that what you really, really want? Or is that what
Yeah.
society has made you believe that you want and you don't even know it's like a subconscious thing? But in times that are rough, I can think back to a lot of lessons from that movie without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe this is kind of a side question to this question. But that movie obviously stars Will Smith.
Yeah.
Are you so outside of like the popular zeitgeist that like when somebody does something bad, like Will Smith when he slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars, does that change your perspective on like watching a movie? Are you able to separate art from artists, or are you even aware of stuff that's happening like that?
Yeah, so I'm very ignorant to a lot of that stuff. Now, I did
Hmm.
hear about him, slapping him, which of course I do not support.
Hmm.
Um, there is, hmm, how do you put this? Yeah, separating the art from the actual artist. Isn't that the
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah, yeah,
I think it would be really tough to say that anyone can do that across the board.
yeah.
I think it's tough to say that. Having said that, I can honestly say I'm because of what Will Smith did,
Mhm.
it does not diminish the good things that he has done.
Yeah.
Now, the bad thing, the mistake that he did, that is so messed up. Like that's
Yeah.
not right. But that flick, that movie was still so incredible, and I respect him for his
Mhm.
performance. So I think that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I also think it depends on like
The
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 crime.
level of the level of the
Yeah, yeah,
mistake.
absolutely. Yeah.
And slapping someone is not as bad as like doing sexual assault or something.
Of
Like
course.
talking about I separating art from artists works. I try my best to do it, but doesn't work in every circumstance.
Sure. Yeah.
I growing up, me and my family used to listen to Bill Cosby.
There, yeah.
And
Yeah,
there you go.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's not, I just can't go back to it at all. Not
It
even,
makes complete sense.
not even
I
for a
agree.
second. And
I
it,
agree.
but then it's like, I still watch a lot of Tom Cruise movies, even though I don't support him what he does in real
Yeah,
life.
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah,
But
I think you hit the nail on the head. It sort of depends on the crime,
yeah,
and it depends on the person and what they think.
yeah, no, there's a level to everything.
Yeah,
It's all situational.
context.
All
Yep.
right. I was curious about that.
Yeah,
I was sort of like how like, I'm sure now you're more aware of certain things, but still kind of outside of that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a good. I actually just thought about it the other day. It's interesting you bring it up now, but
Mhm.
yeah, how difficult is it to separate that artist from the actual art? Yeah.
Mhm. Do you try to be more in tune with sort of what's happening in film, like now that you do this stuff, or is it more important to you like stay out of it because that's kind of like the persona you've built up online is that I'm going into this fresh.
I think that it is. I haven't. I honestly haven't gone either direction intentionally.
Okay.
If I'm really excited to watch something, I'll probably do a little bit of consuming, maybe on like YouTube, just to get maybe a general idea, just because I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But I think there's a beauty of me just remaining ignorant.
Yeah.
I think if you if you look at a trailer nowadays for most movies, you almost watch the whole
Whole
movie.
movie.
So
Yeah.
there's a disservice that's done there. So ultimately, I guess I try to stay ignorant when I sit here and think about it.
Mhm. I think that's a good way to look at it. I
Yeah,
unfortunately I feel like I consume everything and it's like what you said like
sure.
you see the trailer and you're like well I know what's going to happen in this
I know.
movie
Yeah,
now
yeah,
and it's so
exactly.
it's like do I even want to see this now?
Yeah, like he didn't die. He's in the third act. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah. So
Yeah,
so I wish I could stay more ignorant actually like
sure.
honestly.
Yeah,
So I think that's really interesting. Like
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Um so we've talked a lot about working in the health profession and everything. Um, and so, that's sort of your passion. And even off air, we talked about how like I switched to focus more on my passion in life.
yeah,
What's the film that sparked a passion or interest in like a hobby or activity? You like that transition there?
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Well, and so I had a few answers for this, but I thought that one that's just so serendipitous. I think that's going to be the right word. I think I have to thank Star Wars. I think I have to thank Star
Wow.
Wars, honestly, because if not for Star Wars, I mean, you don't do everything for views, but if that video wouldn't have gone viral in 2020, there's no way that he'd be, his channel would not be what it is. And
No.
that's not to pat me on the back.
Sure.
That's to say that what he did, what he captured and all that, like it wouldn't be what it is if not for Star Wars. So,
Yeah.
that is ultimately a hobby or thing that sprung off of it that's led to what it is. So I have to thank Star Wars for that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, there's no way that this trajectory, this ripple effect would be what it is. I don't think you and I would be talking if it weren't for Star Wars. So what's sprung off to be this hobby and this topic is it's all thanks to Star Wars.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy to think about.
Hmm.
That it really, I actually
Right?
did not think of it like that.
Right?
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, Star Wars really has brought, all this together in a
Yeah.
weird way.
I gotta thank him, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. George
Yeah.
Lucas, good job.
Shout out George Lucas.
Yeah.
Shout out Holden.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things, like you said, like I believe that like people who deserve it will earn it. And I think like while that
Sure.
video may have pushed him quicker to like being a full-time YouTuber and everything,
Yeah,
he would have ultimately got there
I
just
believe
with
that
like his
too.
work ethic and
Absolutely.
everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and I think I'm gonna tell you another story about Star Wars that I think you're gonna enjoy from my perspective here. I remember seeing Episode 9 in theaters, which it's
Okay.
been a while for you since you've seen them
Yeah.
all, so I don't know if you know which one's which.
I do remember that one vaguely. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember not liking it. I like the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, this just blows. I'm like, wow, I'm sitting here watching this movie. I'm like, this sucks.
Ugh.
But then right at the very end, I still like, I cried. I
Wow.
like
Okay.
I had this moment because it was something again that I tied so heavily to my grandfather and just the
Mm.
year before he had passed away.
Oh man, I'm
And so
sorry.
like and I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is the only one he's never seen that he's never gonna
Oh.
get to see.
Ugh.
And I'm like, so even if I don't love that movie, like there's still something there that like tied me to it,
Oh.
which was like, and I was like, man. And it was even
That
worse
makes
because I'm
sense.
sitting right next to my friend too, who's watching with me, and I'm like trying to cover it up. I'm like, oh, oh. You don't look at me, don't look at me.
That makes sense. Wow.
But
Mm.
you know, so even in films that don't have like a particular interest in ourselves, like we find something in them.
I think that's the beauty of ultimately storytelling. And you think about
Yeah,
storytelling goes back for as long as we've been around. It's such a great way of storytelling because what your perception is or what you're going to gain from it, you have no idea what the receiver is going to get from that media or from that
yeah,
medium. You just have no idea, and that's beautiful. That's incredible.
yeah. And it's just ultimately like not getting to talk to him about that the way I would
Mm,
talk to like my friends about movies is
man.
what like I think ultimately got me in that moment. It's like
Oh,
even if I didn't like this, I don't get to talk to him about how I didn't
yeah,
like this.
that makes sense.
Uh, so it was really interesting to like see that
Wow.
flip there, and also
Mm.
how you that was like your favorite of all the nine,
Yeah, I
which
know.
shocked. Like,
Yep.
wow, man, just really,
Yep.
really always doing that.
That's why I was laughing because I was like, oh, yep, I remember that was the one I liked the most.
That happens a lot. I'll watch. I'll be like, oh, they posted a video about like my favorite movie, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited to watch this, and you'll just hate it.
Yep. Yep.
One of my favorite movies is Superman from the '70s. And you
Wow.
and you just don't, I was like, man, I was really hoping he was gonna like this more. I,
That's terrible. Oh, that's sad. Oh, I feel bad. I do. There are pieces of me that feels bad now, I guess, because I have more empathy of understanding people love it for the reasons they love it. But yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. That is. It is what it is.
But yeah, and again, it's not like, and I would never hate on you for that. I might
Sure.
look at you
Yeah.
like you're a little strange, but
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
like, I just made my friends watch it, and they also didn't really enjoy it.
Really.
So it's like, and I told them I was like, when you watch this, I want you to have your genuine opinion. Like, don't say you
Yeah.
like this just because of me,
Exactly. Yeah.
and that's what's more important to me.
I think there's something to be said about the rewatch too, which is not something we ever do.
No,
Like what would the rewatch do? Mm, I might have you bleep all this out, but you never know. If I watch Star Wars again, I might like it now. Who knows? Because
hey,
I've grown up both in age,
yeah,
life experiences, perspective, and then like I have good feelings tied to what Star Wars was because of my friends when we were hanging out. So like, if I rewatch it, I don't know what will the perception be then.
yeah.
So there's something to say about the rewatch.
No, absolutely, absolutely. That'd be an interesting like
That would be very
side thing to
interesting.
do. Very
That would be
interesting.
very interesting.
Hey, who knows? I'll believe it if you want me to believe
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
it. Um, talking about liking films and disliking films and kind of going even finding things that you like in films that you disliked.
Yeah.
Is there a film that you disliked fully, but then eventually grew to like more? I know we just talked about rewatches.
Yeah.
And you don't do that.
Yeah. I was thinking about this question. I'm like, certainly there has to be a film that I've watched initially that I've watched again and been like, oh, it's actually a little better than I thought. I really have not been able to think of any.
Uh,
Now, but I still do have an answer, but
oh, okay.
um, and I think that is because again, just due to my ignorance or whatever it is, but like my perception of what it is right there. I don't often rewatch movies except for movies that I grew up watching. Like
Mhm.
my wife says that like I'll watch the same movie over and over and over and over. Now, having said that, I would say that Forrest Gump was a
Mm.
movie that I did not understand. Like I didn't get what everybody loved so much about it. I just I don't know what it was. I didn't think it was a poor performance or whatever, but I watched it when I was a kid and I was like, it's a movie. Yeah. But watching it when I was like 26 or something like that, like understanding that what they did with Forrest Gump and how they made it seem like he was so pivotal in so many historical events, I was like, oh, that is so interesting. So
Mm,
I think Forrest Gump is an incredible movie. Like
yeah.
basically it's just like, this, for lack of better words, is this very unintelligent person just going with the flow of life that led to a really beautiful, rich, fulfilled life. Like how I don't know, just how beautiful, and then how they put so much comedy in it of like how he brought down Watergate because he was like, "Ma'am, there's somebody in with flashlights." It's just so like it's so creative, like so
Yeah.
creative. So, and I just really appreciated that again when I was older. So maybe I just couldn't appreciate it when I was a kid. I don't know.
Yeah. That's really interesting that you say that movie because I think I've had the opposite effect on that movie.
What? Really?
I initially really enjoyed it. I saw it when I was in Boy Scouts on a camping trip, and they
Wow.
like put it on the projector, and I was like, man, that's really good. And I've rewatched it a couple times since, and I'm just like, this, it does not hit the same for me anymore.
Wow, that's wild. Huh.
Y-
See, there's that perception. There's
Yeah,
that who knows what you're gonna get out of film. Like that's crazy.
but also I like next
Hmm.
time if I, watch it again at some point, I'll probably have this conversation of mine where you talk about like him, living
Dude.
his life and, finding purpose and everything and through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Just like there was, I read on, I think it was a clip on YouTube, and this is what made me think about it. But the comment said, like, who would have thought that an idiot just saying yes to everything led to such an incredible life? And I was like,
yeah.
wow, like that's, for lack of better words, that's a great way to put that, because
Yeah, yeah.
I think for a lot of people, like you work on your life and you try to get what you want and all that. But if you just sort of go with the flow, who knows what would happen,
No,
you
absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. Wow, that is really interesting. I'm gonna have to rewatch it now.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Let me know. Let me know what you think this
Um,
go around.
I will. Going on to our next question. What's a film that you consider a hidden gem or underrated masterpiece?
I feel like I've never heard anyone talk about this film. Again,
Okay.
maybe it's due to my ignorance, but The Butterfly Effect.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, this movie, if you haven't seen it, basically it's Ashton Kutcher and talking about the actual butterfly effect, which is ultimately what you do leads to what happens to you. And you can call that fate, you can call that faith, you can call that religion, spirituality, whatever you want to call it. But I had never thought of that concept of basically that it's similar to the ripple effect, that everything you everything you have done or not done has led to you being exactly where you are and where you are not.
Mhm.
And that's incredible. That is really, really incredible. For me, I that to me that makes it that things just can't be random. Things just can't be random. It sort of goes back to what we were talking about. Like you and I wouldn't be having this conversation if not for
Yeah.
Star Wars, and you and I wouldn't be having this conversation had I not, proposed my wife, and like that butterfly effect, and what will make your life and make the people around you. But that is really difficult to wrap your head around. Like it ultimately impacts the world.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like I not from
Oh,
this movie, but like in general, I had this for a long, long time. I was an atheist.
okay. Wow.
I thought that a lot of that seemed silly.
Sure.
For a lack of a better word, it seemed
Sure.
sort of wild to me. And again, maybe it was also coming from the horror aspect, where like it seemed supernatural, and that seemed weird.
Understood.
Um, but then like I was also somebody who believed in fate and believed in like things connecting to
Yeah.
other things. And
Yeah.
so I kind of looked at myself and was like, I'm being a hypocrite in this. Like
Right.
I'm absolutely being a hypocrite. And so like it's made me reevaluate and rejudge like what I believe in. And I would say I lean more now towards agnostic in my
Okay.
views and everything, and
Under-
like seeing that there almost certainly could be some sort of higher power and some
Absolutely.
sort of religious figure out there,
Yeah.
that just we've moved around a lot. And we had
Yeah.
because we have so many different religions that all say a lot of the same things.
Very true.
And so, so it's hard to be like this one for sure is the right way.
Yeah.
and when
exactly.
it's probably in reality somewhere in between everything.
Yeah, yeah, like they all have very overarching similar traits. Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with you. Yeah, I
And
agree.
it's like how we talked about with Star Wars. Like Star Wars has a lot of religious theming. And like, who
Yeah,
knows if maybe there's some sort of apocalypse and somebody finds Star Wars and they think that's really what, space
yeah,
God and stuff is like.
absolutely. Yeah,
It could be the same way as that. So I find all that very interesting. But like
I agree.
to that is, yeah, I absolutely think fate has something to do with
Yep,
us talking right now, like we've mentioned.
I
And
agree.
so
Yep.
I that's a great movie to mention there.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
I actually have not seen it.
Oh wow. Okay, wow. Yeah,
I'm aware of it though.
it's a trippy one. It's
There's
trippy.
I know you don't play video games, I don't think.
Not really. Mm-mm.
There's a video game called oh my god, it's slipping my mind right now. But it's a story focused game where you make decisions until dawn. There it is. It's a horror video game, but you make the decisions and everything plays to you and
Wow.
it really focuses heavy on that idea of fate and the butterfly effect. They even have a
Wow.
whole scene where they talk about the butterfly
That
effect.
is nuts. Wow. That's
Uh
cool.
yeah, so maybe
Huh.
check like watch somebody play it or something or check it out.
Yeah.
Even as Holden, I'm sure Holden knows about it.
Say it one more time. It
Uh
was
it was Until Dawn.
Until Dawn. Okay.
They're actually
Okay.
turning into a movie coming out this
Wow.
year.
Okay.
People aren't super excited about it though because they completely changed everything about the game.
Ooh, okay.
You
Got it.
know, so
Yeah.
but
Purists. Yeah.
that's something I'd recommend for you to check out in the like
Okay,
video game
cool.
world.
Hmm.
Um, we've talked about like you know linking stuff to your memories. So like, what's a film outside of these that have been linked to a specific memory?
Christmas Vacation.
Mm.
So the again, nostalgia is where that comes from. And my apparently my parents saw Christmas Vacation 3 days before I was born.
Oh wow.
My mom was actually pregnant with me. My brothers were with both my parents in watching it, and I have heard this my entire life that they watched it 3 days before. They were actually at the same Walmart where Chevy Chase is on the sled, and he goes into that mailbox. They went to the same Walmart, so I have this memory of a place and time that I was never at about a
Yeah.
movie that was being watched that I was apparently a part of, but obviously I was still in my mother's body. Like obviously I didn't watch it, but so I've heard that my entire life. And
Wow.
yeah, I know, right? And
Yeah.
then it also takes me back to another memory. It was 1993 in Florida. In
Mm.
Pensacola, Florida, it actually snowed, which just doesn't make any sense. And I remember us watching Christmas Vacation every year after that. I was like 3 years old, but it never snowed up and actually till this past
That.
winter, which doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. But anyway,
Yeah.
like I always wanted a white Christmas, a winter Christmas snow and all that. So it makes me go back to 1993 because again, we watched it every year and we always prayed for snow being
Yeah.
Floridians, which so a lot just from that one movie takes me
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
We were talking about how I don't really like comedy movies, but there's those certain few that really get me.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Oh my
That movie
gosh.
it is I don't think I've met somebody who hasn't enjoyed that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah.
It
Seriously.
just so good. I also
Timeless.
think it's funny that you talk about how you like beg for white snow.
Yes.
And I'm here in Ohio and I'm like I want the snow away. I don't want it back. I
See,
get it.
yeah, but my wife, she grew up in Ohio,
Yeah.
and it's because I actually looked you up. I was like, "Where's this dude at?" And then I look, oh, he's in Ohio,
Yeah.
and yeah, she's the same way. She's like, "I don't know, I don't want to be in snow." She's a nurse and she was essential staff, so she was stayed at, she had to stay at the hospital the entire time it snowed
Wow.
here this past December, and I loved it. I was running around with the dogs and all that, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, so I get it. I'm a weird Floridian. I love the
Yeah.
snow. Granted, I've always seen it when it's beautiful. Like I don't see
Yeah.
it when it's all dirty and whatnot. So, um, yeah, snow is fun.
Yeah. So you've grown up in Florida your whole life then?
Whole life. Yep, always
Wow.
been here.
Wow. Yeah, no, we get to the point here where it's like you have that like first week where the snow's really nice and then
Yep.
it gets all gray and
Right.
mushy on the side of the road and you're just like just what I'm so done with this. And then it's so cold here
Yep.
just all the time. Like
Yep.
negative 10, we get like 20-degree weather. Like it's just like,
Wow,
man, this sucks.
that's rad.
I'm, I'm much more of a, like a summer, like fall person. It's,
Come on down to we got beaches. We got some of the most beautiful beaches. You got a place to stay, good sir.
I
It's
say
gorgeous.
I've been to Florida a couple of times, but only ever for like my family trips for like Disney.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
I would like to go to like outside of Disney, like actually look at
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah.
There's always all those stories though, like people be like, Florida man,
Yeah, people are
yeah.
nuts. People are nuts.
Which I mean, you kind of talked about when you went out on all those interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, and oh, and here I am. I have bleached my eyebrows and my hair. I'm not fitting the stereotype in a good way, that's for sure.
No, no, I mean, but at least the conversation's been normal, at least.
That's true. That's true.
Um, well, actually, getting to our final film question here. What's a film that's taught you the most about yourself?
I didn't when I watched this documentary for the first time, I loved it. I thought it was incredible. I thought it was awesome, but I did not know until years later that it would show me that I was forever a student. But the documentary Supersize Me,
Mm,
which it had Morgan Spurlock, who made the Supersize Me 1 and 2. And I loved what the documentary did. If you don't know, he basically ate fast food for, no, he ate McDonald's for 30 days. So how coincidental I did a documentary where I do nothing but fast food for 60 days. I saw such a correlation, comparison, whatnot there. And his, because he was a journalist and he passed away last year. He was a journalist, but he investigated, he learned, he reached, he wanted to see, he tried. Granted, some things came out about the documentary that he was actually, unfortunately, an alcoholic and that affected some of his liver enzymes and all that. That's what I heard. I could be wrong. But with all that said, there was a lot of good that I feel he was trying to do.
mm,
And again, it was only years later that I realized that is me. That is me trying to learn, ask why, reach, grow. And I just, it said so much to me. It said
yeah,
so much. It also in the vein of like the American food supply chain, and what are we consuming? How much should we let marketing affect consumerism? Do we put the dollar over people's health? Whose responsibility is it? Is it only your responsibility? Is it corporations' responsibility? There's so much that could be learned, and it taught me so much that I only learned years later, which is interesting.
yeah. I when I watched your documentary, I actually was thinking about Super
Yeah.
Size Me, and
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, but I wasn't sure if it would be necessarily relevant. But like, did how much did that inspire you? I mean, I
That's
guess you
a
just talked about, but
great question. And I wonder if there was some sort of like seed that was put in me whenever I watched that for the first time. Because again, for me, for watching him, just that investigative journalism and willingness to put his body on the line and trying to convey a message. Like he ultimately got the supersize me option taken off of the menu. Like
yeah,
that's what power that is. And I think it absolutely had an impact on me. I don't, again, you talk about the butterfly effect. I don't think it's random that that was the first documentary I ever made. That was the first
yeah.
book I ever wrote, and something because I love Supersize Me. I've watched it more times than I can count, and he just did a great job with it. It had a huge impact on me for sure.
Yeah. That's all the questions I have for those. But is there a film out of the ones you've listed that you'd recommend people to go watch?
I would say The Pursuit of Happiness.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it, look at it, taste
Hmm.
it, and because the deeper I get into fitness, healthcare, all that, this overarching thing or philosophy, whatever you want to call it, is all of us are trying to escape some sort of pain, whether you know it or not. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. Maybe it's physical, maybe it's mental, maybe it's on your arm. Who knows? We're all trying to escape some sort of pain. And I've learned that focusing on whatever your true happiness is, what makes you happy, the people that make you happy, focusing on that it's worth spending your energy on. And that film always teaches me that, shows me that. And it's just a beautiful flick.
Yeah. I'm actually give you the recommendation I mentioned earlier now. Secret
Yes.
Life of Walter Mitty.
Oh, wait a minute.
Have
Have I seen it? I've
It's with
seen that. I've
you
seen
have?
that. I loved
Perfect.
it. Oh, I
It's
loved it.
amazing.
It's amazing. We did not do a reaction. I remember I actually texted him and I was like, "Hey, you think he'll ever watch whatever this movie is, the
Yeah.
Walter Mitty?" He's like, "Nah, I don't think we'll do it." And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna watch it." Loved it. Oh, what a
Yeah.
great movie. It's similar to the concept of the movie Yes Man, where he just sort of
Mm.
just kept saying yes and going with the flow, and it actually kind of reminds me of Forrest Gump. How just he just kept saying yes and going with the flow, and just what a well, Ben Stiller, great movie.
Oh my God, great movie. I actually just it's been on my mind a lot because I've had to rewatch it because I'm writing I wrote a paper on it for one
Cool.
of my classes,
Okay.
and I'm doing a presentation talking about it and some other films about finding your purpose in life after what many people would consider your prime. Um,
Wow. Oh, wow.
so I got
Beautiful.
I got to watch that, and then I've also just rewatched Soul, which was a movie that I initially I didn't like at all. I remember
Really?
watching it. I was like, this blows. And then I rewatched it. I rewatched it like a week or so ago, and I'm like, man, it just hit me so much differently now. And I don't know
Heavy.
if maybe it's because I'm in that mindset
Could be.
or any something, but I was like, this is beautiful.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's just so, and then I'm also doing two older movies. One's a Japanese foreign film from like the 50s
Wow.
called Ikiru, which is a film I recommend. I really love that movie a lot.
Nice. Okay.
And then
Akira.
one I haven't watched yet called Marty, but it was recommended by one of my professors for
Okay.
this project. They said it
Hadn't
would
seen
fit
that.
in. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and those are all like in Ikiru, he's like an 80-year-old bureaucrat who
Hmm.
finds out he's dying of cancer. So with his last sort of like
Oh,
time
wow.
left in life, he's trying to get
Wow.
this park made for these kids.
Whoa. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's cool.
So it's like that movie, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, just has like had such an impact on my life recently.
Great movie. Great movie, dude. My gosh. I
Yeah.
you're talking about that movie where the guy was ultimately dying, and
Hmm.
I was fortunate. I as a nurse, I worked in an ICU, and then I also worked for hospice, and both roles taught me so much of the value of life. Any day I complained, either job that like I was ICU nurse first, and then was a hospice nurse. Every day I went to work, if I had a complaint in my head about whatever was going on in my life, I was like, I have no reason to complain.
Yeah.
And so what a beautiful burden to have. So that film already like automatically makes me attracted to it. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
No, absolutely. And like crazy respect for being a hospice worker.
No, thank
Like that
you.
like my grandpa had cancer and
Oh,
that's what
wow.
ultimately felt like. And so like the amount of help and just like kindness that they showed
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
just extraordinary. Like
Wow.
I could never even imagine going through that job day to day.
You know what's interesting? The My wife and I have been in healthcare for a long time now, and hospice is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You give someone quality over quantity because we know that quantity is limited. If you're hospice appropriate, you have 6 months or less to live by definition.
Hmm.
And taking that time and doing exactly what you want with it is fantastic because in the healthcare system, we only focus on keeping you alive, keeping you alive, keeping you alive, keeping you alive. So in the ICU, I that's all we focused on was just keeping you alive, regardless of how poor of quality of life you may have after or during, saving you. So I was fortunate to go to hospice right after ICU and give people their autonomy, give them their agency. And I don't want to say it wasn't difficult, but it
Hmm.
was beautiful. And it was an incredible experience. So, um, yeah, it's a great thing. It really is.
Wow. No, I hadn't even thought of it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you again so much for joining me here today and being willing to have this interview be
Heck
done.
yeah.
This has been incredibly insightful
It's been
for me,
fun. It's been really
genuinely.
fun.
You are listening to 88.3 WFC. Do you want to shout out anything before we go off air?
I'm going to shout out you.
Oh,
Dude, you've been awesome. No, I mean, you've been awesome this has been what an awesome conversation it's been. If you made it all the way to this 2 hours, great job. And also, yeah,
come on,
I'll applaud the
clap up.
listener. Congratulations.
Yeah, really appreciate if you have listened all the way through. If not, I do plan on uploading this somewhere so you can maybe piece it out a bit easier. Um, this should be airing soon for us,
Cool.
hopefully. So, I'm excited to have people hear this, have people see this too eventually.
Heck
But
yeah.
no, genuinely, just thank you again
I
for
really enjoyed it.
the interview, and then also the stuff, the work you put in for the documentary
Oh,
and the
thank
book.
you. Wow.
Like
Thank
I
you.
said before, it did move me,
Wow.
and
That's
so I
awesome.
it really like meant a lot seeing that.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I'll be honest with you. I was like, I thought I was like, I'm gonna do this radio show, which I would have just done, talking about, I would have just done talking about the movie. So
Sure.
I was fully prepared for most of it to be like, let's talk about movies and we'll throw the documentary in there for the heck of it, which would
Mm.
have been totally fine. But I'm honored you took the time to obviously watch it, be very thoughtful in the questions about it. So no, I thank you. This was a blast. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Well, and I would never have thought of it that way. Because like for me that I like that to me that felt would have felt disrespectful of your time and
Oh
the effort
no,
you put into that
no,
to
no,
almost
no.
just, I don't know.
No, no. I would have, had we not talked about it at all, this would have been fun. Seriously, it'd have
Huh.
been great. It'd have been great.
Well, well, hey, that's just how we do it here on 88.3 WLFC, Findlay, North Baltimore. I've been your host, Richard Mass. This has been Richard Mass Movie Minute. We're gonna send you back over the music. Thank you for listening. Cut. Boom.
Awesome. Oh, you crushed it. That was what a great ending, dude. What a great
Oh
ending.
man.